What do you do when you know you need support? You know you want to connect with other believers or someone who's had shared experiences with you, and you try to go to a support group or to a church, community group, somewhere, and the outcome is not what you desired. For example, maybe people just didn't talk to you and you felt unseen and lonely at the end. Or you tried and you did what you could do, but other people treated you in ways that left you feeling unsafe in some way, maybe more anxious, more hurt or angry. It increased some kind of an emotion. Anybody ever felt that? Felt that? Anyone? Yeah. I know I have, and I have a feeling many of you have as well, probably a few times. I am going to talk through a question that came to me from a member in our community. The community is called Growing You, which is all about developing who you are and how you show up in this world so that you can live the life that God designed. Be who God designed, live as God designed, and experience more of God's life and aliveness in you today on this earth because his kingdom is with us today and we get to experience all the fullness of it in the future, but that we also get to experience more of him today. So that is the membership community. If the doors are not open right now, you can get on the wait list. Information will be in the description below. I, by the way, already recorded this. For 20 minutes, I went on talking and talking and realized the microphone wasn't working. So fun fact about doing videos, I'm a casual recorder, by the way. I don't like to do a ton of editing. Maybe someday I'll get that or I'll get help to do the editing. But with me, you're going to get me talking through some bullet points and coming to you to just share my heart because I really want to see more of God's people not living burdened by all the things that they should do, they think they have to do, or trying to figure out what they need to do next. Because really, that comes down to the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where we're trying to figure things out for ourselves, trying to fix things for ourselves and fix other people, but we're designed to develop. This is important in today's conversation because it comes up in the question that I'm addressing. And so I'm addressing this specific question, but I want you to keep in mind, how has this played out for you maybe recently? How did you handle it? Or where are you in a similar situation, whether it's a church, a group that you're trying to become part of, or a support group? This question is specifically around a support group, but in our group call in Growing You, we had conversations around trying a new church and somebody responding in ways that left the person feeling hurt or like they really needed someone to hear them and that person wasn't able to listen to them. And so there's a lot that can happen in these dynamics. And I'm not going to go into all of that today, but we can talk about that more about that in the future. And another form of this question or way this comes about is like, how do you meet new people? How do you approach new people, especially if you go to a big church and nobody's talking to you? And so one of our community members, just talked about trying to sit in the same area to see if they could start to connect with people that sit in that area, because that's the tendency we all have, right? To go find our section in the pew and we stay there. Anyway, so that might be more of a separate topic, separate video if you're interested in how do we reach out. But the principles that I'm going to talk about today are going to apply to those situations as well. So I'm going to apply it towards this question. And let me give you a little bit of the background story. So the person that at the member, I'm just going to call them the member, who asked me the question, talked about going to a support group, and support group could be like Celebrate Recovery, it could be Grief Share, it could be divorce care, it could be like Alcoholics Anonymous, NA, um, support groups for different parents of different things. There's like all kinds of support groups out there, right? And a lot of these support groups have a big organization and then they have guidelines that their facilitators are supposed to follow and then help implement within the group members when they show up for these support groups. And so the support groups may be hosted in churches, like Celebrate Recovery definitely is hosted in many churches, but it's not necessarily connected to the church. So you may have some people from the church involved, but not necessarily it's a separate entity. Those organizations, like CR, have specific guidelines because they're designed to facilitate something specific. So, for example, with Celebrate Recovery, they have their format, and then when you get into these small groups, you get like 3 to 5 minutes where you just talk, and people basically don't respond at all, which is what I think is a con. I shouldn't say at all. They respond with "Thank you for sharing." But they're not to give advice. You're not to hand out tissues. You are not to recommend books or suggest anything or start telling your story as a result of what someone else had shared. And there's a lot that is good about that. And then there's also some cons. And that would really be a topic for a separate conversation. It's important to know for this question that those guidelines exist and that they serve a purpose. This purpose allows people who are going through really difficult things to show up when it's probably hard to show up already because they're hurting, they're overwhelmed, they're confused, they don't know what to do next, they just need support and community. It gives them a place to show up with other people with shared experiences and to feel like they belong somewhere and to receive that support. And when someone is telling us what to do, it doesn't feel good, particularly when you don't know the person, you have not built up any relational equity, and they're trying to tell you based on what they think is right. They see like this teeny, teeny little speck of you, like this little bit that they have interpreted all these things and assigned meaning and motivation and telling you what they think you should do. That's not a relationship. It is not connecting, and it doesn't help our nervous system, our brains, and our bodies to feel safe. Safe in the sense of calm at our core, because that acceptance helps us operate from a place where we can take in good things, where we are connected and connectable with other people. But when others are just telling us what to do, they're observing and they're putting things on us, then we kind of try to find a way to not have that put on us. And it can increase emotional reactivity, all kinds of things. So this person had gone to the support group. They'd been a few times. They were clearly trying to get the support that they needed, the help that they needed. They wanted to go. They wanted to develop relationships with at least a couple of people. And I would guess probably wanted to get as much as they could out of the group for that support that I mentioned. And at the same time, noticing that the group isn't perfect, they're not getting all the things that they want to get out of it, and that there's some things that are just pretty annoying, the way that things operate, or it doesn't seem to have, like, it doesn't seem to answer specific needs that we have. Maybe we don't even know that that's something that's important to us, like wanting a very clear purpose where when I bring up a question, someone actually can support me and walk me through a process. That's not part of what the group does. So we might have that expectation going in, it doesn't happen, and then we feel disillusioned. So in this case, the group isn't all the things that they want or need it to be for a variety of different reasons. However, in this situation, they were noticing that someone was just talking nonstop, just talking, 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 which is a problem in and of itself, especially when you're in a group of people. And then they were asking very pointed and directed questions towards the member that came to me. And the member let them know, hey, I'm not ready to answer those questions. And that was setting a healthy limit, honoring her capacity, honoring what she had available to give and wanted to give in the moment, and a clue for the other person to say, oh, hey, let me back off. If you're not ready, I shouldn't be asking all these questions, right? But instead, I believe the leader told them what they need to do. Well, you need to basically be ready to answer all these questions. You need to do such and such. Yellow flag, anyone. When someone says you need to, wait a minute. Our immediate response may be like, red flag, stop, I'm done, I'm out of here. Pause for a second. Do I need to? So they're trying to put something on you that says, this is your responsibility. You need to do this. You, what you're responsible for are the choices you make, the decisions you make. So when someone says you need to, do I need to? Do I want to? Will I? Bring it back to you. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're sort of right and it needs a modification because you know you best. Reflect on that. Okay, do I need to? That helps bring personal responsibility back to here. So, um, unwanted advice was given after this as well, which is also what I mentioned in the support group guidelines. You're not supposed to be giving unwanted advice. You are not to tell other people what you think they should do. You're not to recommend resources and stuff unless they specifically ask. Do you have a resource, a website, a book, a podcast, something that you recommend for this topic so that I can check it out? That's them requesting, your responsibility. You're asking, someone says, oh, here's an option. I can hold the option, I can choose. But somebody else says, no, you need to read this book. You should really read this book because it helped me. It did da 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 da. Then that's all about the other person who's saying it. It's not about the person that you're trying to share it with. So those guidelines serve a really good purpose. And as a result of those guidelines being violated, and I know this is not like a gross violation, but it is a violation of the group guidelines, which also pushed into that person's felt sense of safety. A felt sense of safety matters. Whether a situation seems safe to us on a factual way or not isn't the question. A felt sense of safety is what matters because that is shaped by our personalities, our experiences, our attachments, our all kinds of different situations, how we've been able to manage it, our ability to manage it, our capabilities and our capacities. All these different things shape our felt sense of capacity. Our brain has a felt sense of safety, sorry, and it may or may not make sense, but it's there. We need to work with what is there, what is present. So the question that came to me is because this person got triggered by this point and they said, should I avoid places like this that make me feel worse? What do you think? What would you do? What have you done? Should I avoid places like this that make me feel worse? I'm going to tackle this with a few different thoughts to help you kind of think through how you might handle it in the future if it comes up, or if it's a current situation for you, based on two different categories of things, okay? I think this is important to break it down this way. But also, this question applies also to the support group, but also, like I said before, to if I'm trying to connect with people at a new church or a new community somewhere and I keep not feeling safe, I start feeling worse at the end. Should I keep trying? Right? So let's break this down to some principles and the person. The principles have to do with the like patterns and principles that are helpful and I just think of helpful generally. But principles are principles. It's not a law. It's not this is what you should do or have to do always, and it's not isolated. So there's general principles of how things work out well, and then there's also the person's capabilities, the person's capacity, their like current capacity can wane, like it can be you can have more energy to try to do something new or not have the energy. You can have more emotional reactivity built into your body and less reactivity built into your body, so that kind of ebbs and flows. But the person also is shaped by their beliefs, it is their gifts, it is their personality. All the things that are about are the person, and then you have the principles, how they work together, so that ideally the principles, if we're looking at God's principles, they're designed to help us experience life. But when we only look at this is how things work best, then and not the person at all, then we miss out ways for that person to be able to apply a principle. Does that make sense? So, for example, the principle is in a conversation to one of the principles that I have is honoring myself and honoring others. Healthy interdependence, I believe, is part of God's design. We need to be a healthy individual, and first we need to even know what that is and shape that so that we can be healthy, interdependent, linked in lives with other people that are ultimately linked with God. But sometimes there is no capacity for beyond yourself. Like depression has hit really hard. For example, when I came back from the ranch, I had very little capacity. I still wanted to meet with people because that principle is strong within me, but I pushed myself beyond my capacity, and it actually ended up causing, kind of some more challenges in healing what needed to heal. So, does that make sense? Like, there's the principles, but we also have the person to consider so the person can follow the principles that lead us into healthy situations or healthy dynamics. So, looking at this situation, should I avoid places like this that make me feel worse? In the situation, let's take a look at a couple of different things. What happened factually, the facts, the information about something, and then what happened internally and what was a result of that? So, what happened factually? This is similar to what we do in Unleash Sheets, where the first box is what's happening. You're writing down the facts, the information, your observations, the details about an event, a challenging situation, a pattern that you're noticing in your life, something like that. So in this situation, what happened factually? Um, well, it's factually true, from my understanding in this person's story, that they went to a support group, that they wanted certain things, and that this person talked and talked and talked. That the member set their guide limits, and the limits were dishonored. Group guidelines were violated. That somebody said this and somebody did this. Those are the facts, the information. Those are things that happen factually. So when we look at things that happen factually, it can also help us separate from the intensity of the emotion that is tied to an event. Because when it's just in our mind and we're just circling and spinning in that emotion, then we can start to the beliefs that are already like core inside of us, it gets tied to that. This is just my perspective. I don't know that I can back this up with anything, but this is kind of the way that I understand it from just different learnings and personal experiences. But like that spinning, it just keeps cycling inside of us, and that's like DBT and ACT. We're trying to like the therapy modalities, trying to distance from some of the intensity of the emotion that goes with something. But when you're looking at the facts, you're getting information that can be really helpful. For one, it's distancing you from the situation emotionally, but it's also helping you gain clarity about the situation so that you can make decisions when you're ready that align with your values pertaining to that situation. So again, a principle that I believe in honoring myself and honoring others is that I want to show up well. I want to respond firmly when needed, kindly. I want to set healthy limits. I also want to honor that if somebody else just isn't able to do it, that is their choice. And I'm going to let them have their choice. I'm not going to try to force them to do something different. I may ask them, I may do whatever steps are needed, but I'm not in charge of that person. So, um, the other thing that can happen is that when we step back and look at what are the facts in the situation, we're able to notice when something hits us harder with more intensity and more emotion than it does maybe for most people or certain other people. For example, let's say you're in a room with other people and you're feeling anxious and unsure about being there. You're already starting to feel like you don't belong, nobody wants you there, or people are against you. You see people's eyes, and immediately the meaning and interpretation in your brain is, wow, they don't like me, they're judging me, they think this, they're whatever. Our brain's starting to make all these meanings, interpretations. That's coming from a core belief and core wounds. And then somebody bumps you. Like they bump your shoulder, they kind of say they're sorry, they walk on, and now even more, man, that person was so rude. People are trying to get me out of here. We start building more and more meaning. It may not actually apply factually to the situation. That when we start looking at the facts, okay, this room was full of tons of people. Everybody was trying to get, well, I can go beyond myself and think about what else was happening outside of me and what the information and the observation is of what's happening outside of me is it's really packed. This person who passed by me, they might have been in a rush. They might have been trying to, whether right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. But the reason they bumped into me might have had nothing to do with me. And maybe they just, they were sorry, but they weren't even catching up with their brain that what they were doing, like they bumped me. And maybe it just wasn't anything, like anything to be concerned about. They were trying to get through this group of people, or somebody bumped them. There could be all kinds of other reasons, and we need to step away from this spinning cycle of meaning that's getting tied to our core experiences. Get an outside perspective, get some more information. So that may be a lot to take in this video. Feel free to take notes and come back to it if you think this is helpful. By the way, I would love to hear from you. If you think any of this is helpful, please go ahead and hit the like button, share the video with other people that you think would find it helpful. But let me know in the comments, like what stands out to you? What is helpful? Or how might you apply it? Give some general information. We don't want to get too specific in a public forum, but I'd love to hear, like, what stands out to you today? You might listen to this again months from now or a year from now, something else stands out to you because that's the way it works. We can only take in so much information at a time. I'm sharing a lot today. Quite frankly, this could have been a workshop because there's a lot that I'm putting into this. But okay, so we're going into what happened factually, and we got some general idea that it distances us from the emotion, and it also helps us get a better picture of the whole situation. Now, the reason to do that, I want to caution that when we're getting this other information, if your brain is starting to go, man, I made a mountain out of a molehill, poor me, bad me, how bad I am, I should have never done that, da da da, how could I have done that? That is another spinning cycle. Step back. I had these thoughts. I had these reactions. That is information. Step back from it, look at it, observe it, and be curious about what happened. Give yourself the gift of grace and break in your body and mind by just noticing it without meaning. Okay? So, excuse me. Notice what happened factually, what happened internally. In this case, so the facts, group guidelines were violated. The person felt pressure to speak and they tried to set boundaries, they set limits. They kept persisting and then they had this fight or flight response. They're like, nope, never mind. I don't think I ever want to return. This is too much. Don't want to do this. Let's not go there. Just notice that and notice what you wanted to do as a result. So it's important to connect with what's going on inside of here. So we did the what's happening part. That's the facts and information. That's part of the Unleash Sheets process. And if you're interested in that, it's joleneunderwood.com/unleash will get you there. And the next step is I'm thinking and then I'm feeling. So we're connecting to the real thoughts that we have, connecting to the feelings that we have. So again, this goes into we have the facts, now what's happened internally. So also kind of want to notice what's happening in our bodies. I don't have that as part of Unleash Sheets. Maybe it'll be modified at some point or as a plus feature to get even more connected. But initially, we're starting to identify just what are the real thoughts. A lot of us as believers might go, phew, I'm not supposed to have those thoughts. Get those thoughts far away from me. Nope, I didn't have that thought. Are you kidding me? No, I can't tell anybody that I had that thought because they would hate me. They would reject me. I can't admit that thought. God would be like, nope, not okay. The reality is the thought is there. So when we're acknowledging the thought, we're simply identifying what's happening for us on the inside. We're simply connecting to that rather than shoving it away. Because let's say a thought keeps coming up, keeps coming up, keeps coming up, and you keep going, nope, 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 nope. I don't have that thought. Nope, that's not good, not good, not good. If you notice that it's coming up, so that's just like shoving it aside and not dealing with it, which leads to all kinds of problems. But just noticing it as you build um, internal strength and capacity for personal reflection, you're noticing that you've had those thoughts again as an observer. Wow, I'm having this thought a lot. now I can to bring this before God, and I can say, man, I'm having these thoughts frequently. Um, I don't know what to do with this, or I'm frustrated that I keep having these thoughts, or man, there's something else to it. Why am I having these thoughts? I'm going to do a little bit more exploration. And the feelings part in the Unleash sheets, you've got 2 pages of feeling word vocabulary to describe what is going on inside of you. That helps us connect to this like spinning inner world. And it could be things that feel good, things that don't feel good, things that we're like, whoa, what is that there? I didn't know that was there. Why is that there? But we can bring all of that to God and ask God to speak to what's going on inside of us. That is part of the Unleash Sheets process. It's the first part. So we're noticing what happened factually, we're noticing what happened internally. And, what did you feel? This is my question to the member. What did you feel? What were you thinking? Did you want to run and hide? And yes, they did. Um, and I want to offer this. If this is you, if you've ever felt this or if you've noticed it in someone else, it is a perfectly normal response to feeling threatened, to feeling a felt sense of not being safe. The felt sense matters. You may not know why. You may need support to shift that felt sense so that you can feel safe in situations that are practically safe. But first, we deal with why, what's going on to help decrease that threat, increase internal capacity in the nervous system, in the mind, in the heart, so that those similar situations that may be kind of threatening, where someone says something unkind, for example, you can be in one place and be like shattered. You have no capacity for that at the moment. But as you heal and as you grow, you have more capacity and you also have more skill sets and you are strengthened internally. You respond a whole different way that follows that principle of honoring self and honoring others. Well, that was very unkind. Uh, could you clarify that for me? Or, you could say different things, but until you're in that place with that type of capacity or those capabilities inside of you, it's going to have a different reaction inside of you. And that is normal. You can even think, I know better. I should be doing this. Well, if you start going down that track of I should have, I did this, I know better, and you're defending the fact that it happened, it's going to keep you from attending to what's actually going on so that you can move into that healing process. So that's part of the growth path that I um, talk about. It's the growth path of awareness, acknowledging, attending, activating, and assimilating. And for this person, I said, what was it that felt threatening? And that's important information too. So as you're exploring some of this, are starting to identify what maybe the triggers are. And then when you're stepping back with the factual information, okay, so the group guidelines were violated. Maybe what I want to do is talk to the leader about it later and say, hey, I noticed I really wasn't ready for this. And this person asked me and they wouldn't stop. And I know that's not part of what the group guidelines are. Can you help me with this? Can you address this? Or what do you suggest I do? Or I'm choosing to have a conversation with this person. Like you're starting to have different ways of approaching a problem or situation if you have the capacity to do it. If you don't, we're going to honor the capacity as you are today. But also notice the capacity may go up and down a little bit. It doesn't mean that we're not going to try hard things or that we're not going to step into areas where we might get hurt. We're going to keep building the things that help us tolerate and get through pain when we feel hurt. And then we're going to be able to show up differently in the future. So only you can decide, and only the spirit can really be a good guide for you on that capacity. Because sometimes we're being stretched and it doesn't feel like we can stretch anymore, or we're stretched beyond what we think we can be stretched. And God's saying, I got you, I got you, we're holding out here. But sometimes we're allowing people to stretch us when it's breaking us, when it's leading us to a breaking point. And we need the Spirit's guidance and we need to get connected to our own inner world to be able to make decisions. And that's part of the process of Unleash ends with that, the choice that you're going to make. making a decision. How do I want to show up? If somebody says I need to, I decide. Do I need to? Do I want to? Will I? So, some of the things that I mentioned to the member was I just noticed that your sense of safety and belonging in a group that you value, at least to some extent, you're valuing this group and the valuing going and trying to get the support that you need. How real or ongoing is this threat to emotional safety? Is there something that could be addressed to make it safer? Do you have the capacity to address it to make it safer? What capacity do you have to engage in the group? Can that capacity be honored in the space? And I would give things a few tries, especially when it's a support group or something like CR. Maybe try different CR groups or go a few different times because there just are going to be dynamics. You get a bunch of hurting people together and hurt people hurt people. You've heard that phrase forever. I don't know where it came from originally, but also healed people heal people. So as you're healing, and that's not mine, that somebody else said that too, but you probably heard it before. As you're growing and healing, and others are, it's going to impact you. But we are going to be impacted by other people who are hurting and reactive. So you get to decide. Maybe today has been a really hard day. I am completely depleted. I I want to I don't know that I want to go, or maybe I just want to go and drive myself to the place and see if I feel like getting out of the car or not. That could be a step. That could be a step that pushes you beyond what you think is feels comfortable to see if you have the capacity. Maybe, I don't know. Um, so again, we're going with some basic principles, and like I said, a key principle for me is honoring who we are and honoring other people, that value of interdependence in relationships and personal responsibility. It's honoring God underneath all of that. It is operating with principles that I believe are part of how God brings life and how He loves others, and He's also truthful. All these different things, and I don't have a perfect understanding of them. I never will. I'll do the best that I can. All of us will. But I also believe that we're all in need of God and the Holy Spirit to guide us, and that makes a difference as I'm reflecting and kind of noticing principles that I find um, that I believe lead us to health and wholeness in life. But sometimes I'm so distraught or I'm so worked up. It is really difficult. I need extra support. I need time to process. I need space for those emotions to go somewhere. I need something else so that my person can show up with the principle that matters. But too many times we look at a principle and lay that and say, I have to, I should, I must, I'm bad if I don't, or I'm hated if I don't, or I'm whatever. But remember, it's a principle. There's also the person. Why didn't I? God help me. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding and that's not even the right principle. Maybe I'm putting burdens on myself that don't belong there. So I feel like I've touched on a lot of different topics today. And I hope it's not overwhelming. I hope that this is helpful, to be honest. And like I said, share in the comments below what you find helpful, or just even like I'm thinking, I'm taking this in, I'm pondering, I'm going to reflect on this a little bit. One thing, just one thing that you want to reflect on specifically could be something like, I just want to notice when I'm getting worked up in a situation, or I want to notice that when I feel slighted and hurt by others, it may or may not be true that they're intentionally doing it, that that's their motivation. I might be assigning motivation to someone. There might be going on something else going on with me, and therefore I just need something else to help me so that I don't perceive it this way all the time. And I'm gonna take a deep breath, move, name what's going on, I name I'm feeling anxious, name what I'm noticing, I breathe, move the body. Okay, be curious, compassionate towards yourself as you're noticing, because God is there. God is ready to be with you as you're engaging in a process that helps you live in a healthy place and engage with people so that you can not live isolated and increase capacity to be able to deal with some difficult people, but also guidelines and distance from people who are really unsafe and just not wise to spend time with. let the spirit lead, do that personal reflection, and I'd love to hear how that process works for you. If you'd like to take it further, highly recommend Unleash and Growing You, the membership community. Links will be down below. Feel free to let me know if there's any questions and get on the wait list if the doors are not open at this time. Take care, everyone. Bye.